Stream on. You ready to go?
Let's do this.
Okay, I need the right window for this. This is the Techno Buffet podcast, episode number, what are we up to now? 611. In
Wow.
5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good evening, it's December 15th, 2022, and we're here for yet another episode of the Techno Buffet podcast.
Yes we are.
Yep. Isn't it exciting?
I are excited.
Yep. So, I have relocated to that state that you live in. Well,
Are you?
Yes, I relocated to, I thought I would wave at you as I passed over Jacksonville, but I didn't pass over Jacksonville, Florida. I only passed over Jacksonville, North Carolina.
Okay.
So if I waved to you in Jacksonville, North Carolina, you wouldn't have seen it.
No, I would not.
Yes, the plane took a water approach. But I'm here. Somebody told me I was in a place called SoFlo. This is the first time I've ever heard of it called that.
I have not heard of that.
I told them that I thought that sounded like some sort of medical product.
Yeah.
They told me would SoFla sound better. Yeah. But anyway, so I have some time off. So today was the first day of my vacation. If you remember, I took some days off because I didn't take very many days off this calendar year, and I have to use them up before the end of the calendar year. So now I'm using them all up. So today was the first day of my vacation, so guess where I went?
I don't know. Where did you go?
I went to work.
Oh, that's not how most people vacation.
That's not how I'd like to vacation either, but they called me for an emergency, and I expect my 2 hours back. I didn't work for the whole day, but they called me on for a bit. So.
Oh.
Yes. The company was equally divided between the people who said, why can't this wait, and the other people who said, this can't wait. I suppose it's good that I'm indispensable until they dispense with me, but yeah. Anyway, so I did some fun projects since the last time we met.
You did?
Related to my home. I decided to, before I left, and I was worried about doing it before I left because what if it broke and I was several thousand miles away, I deployed my OpenSense. My OpenSense router / firewall. You're not familiar with OpenSense?
I am not.
Are you familiar with pfSense?
Yes.
Okay, OpenSense is like pfSense, only it's a fork.
Oh. And how's that going?
Seems to be working. It worked better than the Edge router, but that's mostly because I was maxing out the capabilities of an Edge router. Which is why I decided to go more powerful. So what I did before I left was essentially reproducing the features that I was using on the Edge router. So I decided it should run in place for a little while before I do anything crazy. But I wanted to make sure that it was running essentially the same way that it was before, and then I can add in, things like filtering, intrusion detection, all the, the fancy stuff.
Right.
But for now, again, it's getting me better bandwidth than edge router was, because I think at high usage I was having problems there. Also, I was running a bunch of simultaneous WireGuard VPNs off of an edge router. So as I said, I think that was taxing that level of processor. So this is just a little fanless dual WAN x86 computer, which is more than enough power for what I want. So if anybody has any good suggestions about interesting things I can do with OpenSense or similar, I'm always interested in some ideas. But a lot of my work there was just getting it to reproduce what I already had. So that includes, opening up the right ports in the standard firewall, setting up the VPN site-to-site between places, and, dynamic DNS in case the DNS decided to change, which does happen. Well, Verizon, my provider, does not always let me keep the same IP address indefinitely.
Really? That's not nice.
Well, they used to, but now sometimes it does reset, which is what dynamic DNS is for. But to update that sort of thing. The problem is if you're running WireGuard does not do, even though you can give it a host name instead of a IP address, it does not do very well with that change. So if there's an IP address change, the individual sites will work, but I do have to go in and just restart the WireGuard system so it'll pick up the new addresses. There are some scripts that are supposed to do that for you, but none of them have quite worked the way I wanted them to. So.
Oh.
And my security system running through Home Assistant continues to have some technical difficulties. For example, it went off this evening when I turned off the one of the integrations so that the sensor that was supposed to be monitoring turned to unavailable. And I said that if the sensor went to open, that it was supposed to trigger an alarm as long as I wasn't home. But instead, it apparently did that when the sensor went to unavailable. So I have to tweak a few things. And then,
really?
Yeah. And then, of course, I came here to Florida, and I'm working on improving the Home Assistant instance here, which is running off of a little computer that I keep here for that. And that computer, I removed the edge router here, which used to be the house router, until the people at Atlantic Broadband nixed that concept. And I merged everything so that the little computer here is also acting as the WireGuard gateway. So I had to remember all of my IP tables commands I haven't had to use in years.
IP tables can be confusing.
No, I used to, years ago I built my own router out of a standard Linux implementation. And I decided that I wanted something that did more of the work for me. So I went to essentially high-grade routers for a few years running OpenWRT or DDWRT, then switched over to the Edge Router X for a few years, and now OpenSense, which is back to using a full computer, but one that actually is a complete OS for what I want it to do, so I don't have to do quite as much manual tuning, but if I need to, I can. I think that's where I'm going just because of the combination of how many hours in the day I have.
Right.
And how important having my internet working is to me.
Having a working internet is important.
So I think I've gone to, I want it to work, but I want that power. Essentially, it's sort of, I'm going to use an analogy here. I want essentially that nice, high-level graphical interface, but I want to get down into the command line when I want to. Not quite an analogy, but I do that in a lot of
No, that's not an analogy.
That's almost direct. So I want a GUI for when I just want to quickly change something, but I want a command line for when I want to really dig in and do something advanced.
Yeah, the problem is that the command line can let you get the system into states that the UI cannot represent.
Been there. But there seems to be a very nice and simple backup mechanism to save your configuration, and then you could do a clean install. So I'll keep working on it. But so far, so good.
Cool.
And that's pretty much what I've been up to in terms of home automation. A lot of little tweaks. Now that I'm here, I have my list of chores that I've wanted to do since. For example, I have to fix an Android phone for one family member, add a smart light switch in a strategic place, possibly reprogram the ESP Home, the cough lit up switches so that the actual lighting up does something. Of course, since this is my parents' apartment that I'm visiting, every time I do something, they accuse me of trying to play some sort of trick on them.
I'm sure you deserve it.
No, I upgraded the firmware on the ESP Home devices to 2022.12, and they accused me of playing games by making their lights flash.
Well, you shouldn't have done that. That wasn't very nice of you.
But I was updating the software. I was being a good son and maintaining their infrastructure.
Clearly not.
Isn't that what a good son is supposed to do? Maintain their parents' computer infrastructure for them?
I don't know.
I've been told.
I've been told.
Yep. Anyway, so that's my little story of what I've been up to, and I spent a little more time on it than I might have otherwise because it's been a slow news week. I sat on the plane the other night, and I was sitting there with the free JetBlue Wi-Fi. Not a secret that I usually fly JetBlue between New York and Florida. And I cleared out all of the articles that were on my to-read list, and I still only ended up with 3 things to talk about. So I don't know anymore. I think we may need to migrate more into the let's talk about some concepts. Let's have let's talk about Zigbee and Z-Wave again or something. Because we certainly...
Speaking of Z-Wave...
Yeah. This is that segue you were hoping for, right?
I like segues.
Yeah. So Z-Wave is hoping to get into open source. So they've announced they've completed the Z-Wave source code project. This is the Z-Wave Alliance. And the protocol source code is now available to all Alliance members. And they are going past a single vendor for Z-Wave chipsets.
I'm pretty sure nobody will care.
I don't know about that. I'm not saying nobody. I think it may be too little too late.
Sure. Yep.
Well, same thing possibly with, Zigbee. But I think, and I'll sort of say this based on other issues with Matter, I think that when you put, let's say, Home Assistant into it, you don't really care. You can keep your Zigbee devices, you can keep your Z-Wave devices, you can have your Matter devices, and everything can go together in a glorious integration.
That's true.
But I'll just quote from this article, which comes from Stacy on IoT. The Z-Wave Alliance says it's seen 90 million new Z-Wave devices enter the market since 2020. So,
that's a lot.
Yeah, so at the very least it says that there is a market for this sort of thing, even though Z-Wave and Zigbee may have competition from Matter. By the way, can you actually buy a Matter device right now?
Not that I know of.
So this may be a different story later, but I have Z-Wave. And remember, I just updated my Z-Wave and Zigbee infrastructure. And this, I figure, by the time I decide that I need to update it again, it may be that Matter is prevalent enough that I start replacing things or not. But in my primary residence, all of my window and door sensors are Zigbee. I tried Z-Wave for that, but I had issues. And then, let's see, what else do I have? I have 2 thermostats in my home that are Z-Wave. So then I have the keypads, which you've heard me talk about. Those are Z-Wave. So I have a combination of things, and because of Home Assistant, they all work together.
Yay, Home Assistant.
Yeah. So I don't think necessarily that Z-Wave is going away, and they do have the new Z-Wave LR, which is their long-range specification. So,
Ooh,
yeah. So
that's
again,
kind of handy.
yeah, we'll see. Well, think about Insteon. Even though things have sort of supplanted Insteon, there's still a dedicated Insteon community, to the point at which when Insteon went under, somebody went and bought the assets and put the server back on.
Cool.
So, moving along, Android 13's output switcher support for Google's Chromecast standard is rolling out, apparently starting with YouTube Music. So I haven't gotten a chance to try this out, because I do have the YouTube Music app. And I don't know if I should try changing the output switcher and seeing if Cast is there. But this would be good because of what I've recently done in terms of rearranging my Cast-capable devices.
Cast-capable devices, huh?
Well, remember, you have your smart displays, which I use as I use as photo frames. So one of them in my living room was actually behind my desk, as in it was my back was to it when I was sitting at the desk. I decided to move it, even though it sort of seems weird, I moved it onto the desk under my computer monitors. So
That's weird.
well, it's not quite a third computer monitor. Well, actually, technically I have four, but that's a whole other conversation, which we've had, I think, a few times. But what is the point? I was sort of realized that even though I wanted it somewhere else in the room for the audio component, that I need another audio output device on my desk. What is the point of having something that rotates through your photos if you always have your back to it?
That's true.
So I moved it to where I could see it, and we'll see. I recently measured my apartment in an attempt to sort of figure out if I rearranged the furniture, would there be a better layout?
Right.
And I determined one thing.
No.
Only if I have about 100 more square feet. By my calculation, my apartment is approximately 100 square feet smaller than advertised. My math might be wrong, though. Anyway, so as of now, my problem is that my living room, where I work, sit at my computer, and in various parts of the same rectangular box, watch television and such, is a long rectangle. And what I've done is I've tried to divide the long rectangle into two squares. So there's the sort of living room and office square right next to each other.
Right.
So it's sort of hard to, over the years we've done the show, I've rearranged the squares. Because I think I've told you that over the years, I have recorded the podcast from different parts of the same room every time I've moved the desk.
Yep, remember that.
Yep. So I keep thinking about doing it again to the one part of the room I have not put the desk recently.
Ooh, that sounds exciting.
No, that sounds like a lot of work.
Well, tomato.
Well, the thing is, it's essentially, the room is not on a Lazy Susan, so I would have to move a piece of furniture, move another piece of furniture. But I've come to the realization that I need more light. And with the current rotation, the desk is the farthest away from the actual window. And here I am in Florida, where I was working again this morning unexpectedly. And here, there's a sliding glass door out to a balcony, and there's actual light. It makes me think, maybe I want light while I work. Maybe light is good.
Light is good.
Yeah, well, well, we're both currently in Florida. There's a reason they call it the Sunshine State.
Although today was not very sunny.
Really, it wasn't bad here.
To be fair, it's the first time in weeks that it has not been.
By the way, it's supposed to rain tomorrow. I don't know if it is further north, but definitely in this area it is.
I think you're getting tomorrow what we got today.
Possibly. But miserable days are good days to go to Disney. I remember many years ago I went to Disney in 30-degree weather. And no
That
lines.
sounds horrifying.
But most of the rides are inside. Why do you care?
No.
No,
Gonna do it.
I'm just saying, most of the rides are inside.
Wouldn't be prudent.
Okay. I don't think I want to go to Disney, although I am pleased that Bob Iger is back. I like Bob Iger. I was not a fan of the Chapek era.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Bob Chapek was recently ousted as the chief executive of Disney. Essentially, it was this weird thing where over the weekend they announced that Bob Iger, the previous chief executive who had done the job for I think it was 15 years, the one who presided over Disney buying Marvel and Disney buying all the big things that Disney's done over the last 20 years.
Okay.
So essentially, imagine this. You have this chief executive who is very widely popular. He retires, and his replacement, who is also a longtime company veteran who's considerably less, let's just say, well received, to be polite. He's the one who, it was under his tenure the whole thing with the Reedy Creek Improvement District happened, and the commentary and mismanagement of the situation between Disney and the state of Florida. Although I have to say the governor of Florida had something to do with that as well. But
okay.
But basically, people seem to be happy that Bob Iger is back, not just me, because again they think that he will not necessarily start showering people with all the things they want, but they think that it will be that some of the issues that people have been complaining about, poor maintenance, lack of dedication to tradition, that he represents a more traditional management style, even though it's a hard economy and he probably will still have to do some things people won't like.
Does this mean we're going to get a Tron 3?
I don't know. Why can't they just finish the Tron coaster already? Do you realize that in the time it's taken them to build the new Tron coaster at Disney World, the people at Universal have practically built an entirely new theme park down the road?
No.
Maybe I should start a theme park podcast. Anyway. But no, I'm not necessarily an obsessive fan of the Walt Disney Company. But I do find theme park technology to be very interesting, the same way I find a lot of technology to be interesting. So I tend to follow it. And, there are a lot of interesting controversies in the theme park world.
Controversies in theme park world?
In the theme park community. You're telling me that you haven't heard of some of the things that have been going on?
I'm going to go with no. Okay. But I am dying to hear what counts as a controversy in theme park world.
No, in the theme park world, as in the community.
Okay.
It depends. Do you want little controversy, big controversy, medium controversy?
Let's do medium.
Oh,
let's not go wild first. Let's start with our pants on.
Okay. What's going on? Are you familiar with Splash Mountain?
I've heard the name before.
Okay, Splash Mountain is a water ride that was built in the latter part of the 20th century, and it uses the theming of the stories of Brer Rabbit. So Brer Rabbit again. So we'll just use the term folktale. But Brer Rabbit was the Brer Rabbit version they're using was from a 1940s era movie called Song of the South. Song of the South is one of the movies that Disney will not release from the vault because it is, let's just say, to put it vaguely, racially troubling.
Okay.
So the movie has not been seen outside of the Disney vault in years. It's not on Disney Plus. They don't plan on putting it on there, which makes no sense to me. Not that I'm, jumping to see Song of the South, but they have Dumbo on there and Pinocchio, and there's certainly plenty of troubling stereotypes in those. Anyway, but so they've decided to, after years of sort of not talking about this, that they're going to retheme Splash Mountain. So it's going to be replaced by TBA.
What's that?
Well, that was their announcement. They announced that it's going to be replaced by TBA.
What's TBA?
Tiana's Bayou Adventure. They're retheming Splash Mountain to the animated movie Princess and the Frog. So there's controversy here. There are the traditionalists who, even though they may or may not be aware of the Song of the South thing, they're the traditionalists who say there's nothing wrong with the ride as a ride, even though it might be based on troubling intellectual property. By itself, there's nothing wrong with it. Why change it? We like it the way it is. And the other group who's saying, no, the ride is inappropriate because it has associations with a troubling old movie, and it needs to be replaced. So there's a medium-level theme park controversy.
Okay, so here's my interpretation of that. People are just stupid. They should have said, in my opinion, that the original theming of this ride is for an older generation, and we're rebranding it to market it to a younger generation. That's my opinion.
By the way, this is not the only community where you see people arguing about various things. That you can get into the one of my other favorite obsessive communities to watch people argue about, the transportation sign topography community.
The transportation sign to what?
Topography. People who argue about
the fonts?
Correct.
Okay, tell me about this. This has got to be interesting. Are these people who want to put, like, Comic Sans on our street signs?
No, people who, whenever they change the font on various transportation signs, get annoyed and debate whether or not the old or the new font was better. Again, people who have, interests in a topic will get very passionate about their topic. So you asked me about one community. I think you could probably name a community that's passionate about the area that it's in. What about, let's say, fans of Leverage? Are you telling me there aren't some passionate people there debating?
Debating whether redemption is worth anything or not? Sure, there probably are.
I don't know. I thought they brought in Keith David. I love
Who?
Keith David. What?
Who's Keith David?
An actor. I've been watching the show so that we could have something to talk about because I know you're a fan of it, and I enjoyed the original, so I figured why not.
Who does Keith David play?
He played the role of Elliot's father.
Oh.
He is a very well-known actor. He's not like lead in movie well-known, but he's. I would bet if you just paid attention to his voice, you would say that you'd heard that guy before because he has a very distinctive voice.
What was his name?
Keith David. Don't confuse him with David Keith. That annoys him.
That's funny. Oh!
I used to run into him in New York and once in Los Angeles. But
I love Keith David. Yeah, now I remember this episode. Yeah.
I'm just saying he's a great actor, and as I said, I ran into him not in a friendly manner, but I kept running into him at like random events when I used to attend science fiction conventions when I was younger. So But anyway, but he's a well-known actor, has been in a lot of things, including, interestingly enough, just circling back, he was in Princess and the Frog. He did one of the voices. But anyway, I should watch Princess and the Frog, find out what all the controversy is about. But
it's not that good a movie.
I don't know. People keep telling me, keep referencing movies that I have not seen over the last 20 years. Like, I've heard good things about this Toy Story thing.
Yeah.
So my nephews told me they would watch it with me, and then they got bored after a few minutes and left, and so I have not finished. But again, maybe one of these days. I moved out of that particular genre of movie some time ago. Maybe I'll get a reason to go back and revisit some things. But beyond that,
okay, now I'm confused.
About which? Why we've gotten far off topic, it's because we only have 3 things in the show notes, and I tried really hard to find more. But, what confuses you, Keith David? Or
yes.
What about him? You found his performance in They Live?
I did not. I thought that was Ernie Hudson.
You're confused, Keith David and Ernie Hudson?
Yes.
Why? They don't sound similar.
I thought they did.
Really? Keith David has a much deeper voice. He's sort of in that, like...
No, to me they're very... I think because I've been watching Quantum Leap, the new one, and he's in that.
Yeah, Ernie Hudson is in that, not Keith David.
So I think maybe that's what I had in my head. I thought that was...
Is this because
that was Zedmore.
Yeah. Is this because of that whole thing where they had Ernie Hudson playing a role, and they later recast the role with Keith David? Or was it the other way around? Was it Keith David who was recast by Ernie Hudson? I can't remember. But I know they both played the same role at different times. Because that annoyed me. But anyway, no, they're both good actors, but very different in terms of what they've done. So Ernie Hudson, again, is doing the new Quantum Leap reboot, and he's probably best known for playing the Ghostbuster who got the least amount of character development during the first 2 movies, which I think upset him, and legitimately so. But
yeah, but he's still, compared to modern movies, he still has a lot of personality.
Yeah, what I'm saying is he felt like they didn't give his character enough to do, and I think they made up for it in the recent Afterlife movie, where he, if you look at the post-credit scenes, the future movies may be him restarting the franchise.
You know what else? Winston Zeddemore also got a lot of character development in the cartoon, and I'm a big fan of the real Ghostbusters, so maybe that's...
Did he do the voice in the cartoon? I can't remember.
Certainly did.
No, because I know, because I remember having a conversation about this, and it's funny what sticks in your head after all these years, that they essentially had Dave Coulier doing Dan Aykroyd.
Really?
Here we are. Nope. Arsenio Hall, for the first 3 seasons of The Real Ghostbusters, did the voice, and then was replaced by Buster Jones for season 4 through 7.
That makes me sad.
And for the first 2 seasons, Peter Venkman was played by Lorenzo Music, who is most famous probably in the cartoon world for doing the voice of Garfield on the Garfield and Friends series, and before that for playing Carlton the Doorman, the unseen doorman on Rhoda. But from seasons 3 to 7, it was Dave Coulier, who's most famous for being on Full House. Then Egon Spengler was voiced by Maurice LaMarche, who's well known for a lot of voices.
Crazy talk.
What? Maurice LaMarche being well known for voices?
Well, Ernie Hudson has a long and distinguished
I wasn't arguing that point.
Bibliography.
I just said I agree with you. I just said he didn't do the voice of his character in the animated series.
That makes me sad. But yes, I'm glad to see him in. I was happy to see him in Afterlife.
Yeah, and as I said, I think they're sort of course correcting in that they're going to have him in Rebuilding, and to some degree that's because they've realized they underutilized him, and two, lack of other options for utilization. Harold Ramis has passed away. Bill Murray is Bill Murray. Well, I'm not talking about his controversial.
I understand this.
I'm saying I don't think he, other than the cameo, I don't think he really wants to come back to the franchise, and he didn't want to for years.
I don't think he wants to work at all.
I think he wants to do the occasional art movie, and nothing else. But you see a lot of people who go into older age and realize that they only want to pursue a couple of projects because acting looks easy when you see the final product, but it's long. It's hours and hours of work. You're sitting around for hours just to get one scene. You may have to get up at 6 a.m, sit around, and spend the entire day just getting something. So I don't blame actors for either saying at some point I just can't do this anymore even though I like it, or I really do want to keep doing it, but I don't want to do the breakneck pace I did when I was in my 40s. I want to maybe do one film a year or make the occasional appearance on something just to keep myself busy. And as I said, I don't blame them for that. Who wants to, even if you like your job, you don't necessarily want to have a breakneck pace as you get older.
Yep. True enough that.
I think of my dentist. So I had the same dentist up until the pandemic, from the 80s onward. So by the end, just before the pandemic, he was only coming in for 4 hours on a Wednesday because he'd like to come in, still do his dentistry, but he wasn't there every day and he wasn't there for a full day. He liked coming in for half a day. And I would essentially rearrange my schedules because he would only be in on Wednesday mornings. I would rearrange my schedules so that when I wanted to see a dentist, that he was available. And he was happy doing that, and well into his 80s, and he would still be happy doing it, except during the pandemic, apparently his family talked him into finally fully retiring.
Cool.
So I can understand that sort of, I may not want to work full time after, I'm of retirement age, but I want to sort of keep, have like a part-time gig to keep myself busy. I was just talking to my former boss who said the exact same thing. He retired at the end of 2020, and he said he was trying to find a part-time consulting job that he could do to keep himself busy, but he said all the jobs that he found were more work than when he was not retired. And he said that isn't what he was looking for. So he just stayed in retirement. Are you looking forward to retirement, Sherry?
Not really. I think I'd be bored.
So this is the same problem that I'm mentioning. You might want to do less work when you're retired, but I think there are many people who don't want to do nothing. They want something to do. Get up in the morning. Have a. For me, I have so many home projects. I'm sure I'd find something to do, but I'm nowhere near retirement, relatively speaking. So have you involved yourself in any projects in the last week?
So much work. All the work.
Me too, except for the days that I took off. And notice, as I said, even the day I took off, I was still working. But hopefully for the next few days, nobody will try to get me to do anything. So I might be able to relax a little. And I don't really have any plans other than, like the projects for working on my parents' apartment while I'm visiting them. I'll probably visit the pool, wander around the neighborhood. And this weekend is the start of Hanukkah. So
Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you. There will be candles. They will burn, and then the next night we'll add an extra one. That's how it works until we run out of spaces. Not sure what else to say about that, but I think I think I stretched out 3 show note stories sufficiently.
Yeah, we've made it well over half an hour, so
Yeah.
this is cool.
Well, again, we had a lot of interesting topics. If anybody has any, just to summarize the things that maybe somebody will write us about, let's see. Thing number 1, any advice for me on OpenSense? Thing number 2, if you have strong opinions about the theme park community and its controversies, or, of course, transportation, font, and topography. I want to see if we can, arise the ire of the font nerd community. Or, of course, if you're a fan of Keith David and Ernie Hudson and you're offended that Jerry can't tell the difference between them. By the way, I'm not offended. I'm just saying I think they don't sound alike to me.
Okay.
No, Keith David definitely has like one of those lower voices, in sort of the iconic James Earl Jones style. He doesn't sound like James Earl Jones, but I'm saying that sort of like distinctive deep voice. It's a different distinctive deep voice, but anyway. So, pop culture arguments aside, maybe I'll catch up on my movie watching as well. We'll see what movie I end up watching.
All right.
So until next week, when I will still be sitting in this chair in Florida. That is the 22nd. I assume you're available. I'm only asking because it is the holiday season, so you never know.
Yes, the 22nd I will be available.
Okay, so let's do episode 612.
I like it. It's a plan.
Yep. And then the week after that, we can do 613, which is one of my favorite numbers. See, there's a cliffhanger. You have to tune into episode 613 for me to tell you why.
Yep. Woo! Good job.
I didn't say it was a edge of your seat cliffhanger, but anyway, until next time, goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Recording stopped.
So how have you been enjoying